Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I see a lot of you are here already. So today we have a special guest. We have Adam from Stargazing Astrology. Welcome, Adam.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. So we have so much to talk about, right?
We do, yeah. Well, definitely a lot going on in all spectrums of the astrological wheel and political wheel and
Right. So I know the first thing everybody's thinking is what's going to happen with Liz Cheney, because it's looking like she's going to lose her Congress seat. I would agree. I mean, that's my cards have said she's going to be okay. Like, she's not going to disappear. I think she's going to lose the seat, but I don't think she's going to completely disappear from politics and from the public eye. I think she's going to continue, but just with other things, you know. So what do you have for her astrology? Like, what should we know about her?
Yeah, so I have some actually really interesting facts on Liz Cheney's astrological chart. So this would be her natal chart.
Okay.
So what I have about Liz Cheney is that her sun sign is in Leo. So Leo is very much about wanting to be the center of attention and very much sitting on the throne. However, her sun sign is in the fourth house. The fourth house is sitting at the foundation of the subconscious mind in the astrology chart. So this shows me that someone with a fourth sun sign in the fourth house, even though it's in the astrological sign of Leo, she doesn't have the overarching need to be in that position of power. She has the ability to sit back and reflect and to and to be a little more grounded. So that kind of shows me, if she ends up losing, then it's not going to be the end all for her. There's powers of regeneration when you have your sun sign in a very subconscious spot, because the rational ego isn't so affected and so wounded and so damaged from something like a loss. So she has going for her the ability to be able to come out of this. Learning and learning new things, and then the ability to be able to grow and transform from that.
Right. Yeah, like, I think she's going to be okay as a person. I just think she's going to lose her seat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because the other person that's looking like they're going to get it is Harriet Hagman. And she's backed by 45. She believes in that whole big lie thing, and it's not great. So
yeah, and unfortunately, what we're really seeing here is Donald Trump and his influence still holds a really tremendous amount of power here.
He does, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think she's going to be fine. But she is moving forward in a different way. So she is still going to have positives in her life. Like, I know this isn't going to be one of them, but I think this actually might give her opportunities to do bigger and better things. I wouldn't be surprised if Biden appointed her to something. That wouldn't surprise me. She's kind of stuck, though, in the planning phase right now. She doesn't quite know what she's going to do quite yet. She feels a bit like her hands are tied, which I think makes sense. I mean, it's an election. There's only so much she can do. And she will carefully assess things, think about everything, take stock of what's going on. But then ultimately, she's going to take action and move forward. But it's going to be in a quieter sort of role. And so I don't think we're done hearing from her, but, I think this phase is done for her, and she'll move forward from there, I think.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I was actually very much thinking about a very similar circumstance. And what I did here was I decided to look at the placement of her Saturn in her astrological chart. And the reason why is because Saturn represents karma, it represents duty, it represents obligations. And what I noticed here is that her Saturn is in the 12th house in the astrological chart. And the 12th house can be feelings around loneliness, isolation, loss.
Okay.
People can suffer from insomnia, nightmares, vulnerabilities. So her sun sign and her Saturn position are in what are considered the water houses, which is having to do much more with the subconscious and the unconscious. So it seems to me what she's doing now in this transition is that she's coming to terms with a lot of those unconscious fears around loss, as represented by that Saturn in that 12th house. And you know, she's basically, they're being shown to her, you know, in order to essentially move her along. You know, it's sort of like what's seeming like a loss is actually ending up like being a gain for her, because now she's forced to be working on different levels of her consciousness rather than just the public eye.
Right. So I see a lot of people are saying, oh gosh, I hope Biden doesn't appoint her to anything, which is true. I mean, because, you know, we sort of do like, I don't know, I think we get like a little bit carried away when we think about her sometimes, just because she's like one of the few ethical Republicans that came forward, you know. But we have to remember her voting record and her track record, right? It would have been great for the Democratic Party and isn't really what most of us would back. But your microphone's a little bit crackly. I don't know if you can fix that.
So what happens sometimes is when it crackles is the best thing I do is I just leave and then I come back really quickly. Is that okay?
Fine. Go right ahead. I will let you right back in.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, SJ. I think you're right. SJ Wonder says, remember Liz is her father's daughter. Yes. Hello, Vivian. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Sempress. Scott, Nova. Welcome, Christina. And for all my members, right after this, we have messages from Spirit where I pick lots of you to read your questions. And then after that is the Ra channeling. So busy night for members. Busy. And how is everyone doing? Is it cooling off where you are? It's cooled off a bit here in New England. It's not quite so muggy and humid. It's being a little bit more pleasant. Suzanne says I'm doing a marathon. Yeah, I am doing a marathon today. Hey, Debbie. Hi, Leonore. Kim, let me let Adam back in. Let's see. Maybe that works.
Did that work?
That did work.
Fantastic. Yeah, I don't know why. It's like every once in a while, it just does that a little bit, and then for some reason, if I leave and come right back, it's the problem solved.
With Zoom, it's also the same thing. Because I work with a lot of clients on Zoom, and if there's a problem, just leave and come back, and I don't know what it does, but it resets it somehow. And yes. So Zelensky. So I thought maybe we could look at Zelensky because he talked to Macron today because he's very concerned about the nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
You know, the Russians have been shelling it. They've taken it over. They won't let anybody in to inspect it. It's kind of scary times. So I thought, like, you know, what is Zelensky going through right now astrologically? Because, I mean, he has such a full plate.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, so Zelensky has his natal sun in Aquarius, which is extremely humanitarian, and it's sitting next to the planet Venus, which is all about relationships. So a lot of his goals and his ideals are really to make the world a better place as far as humanity in general. And so what happens here is he gets, you know, he's very sensitive to the upsets and injustices of humanity. Right? As far as the environment, as far as the political spectrum. So this, and Aquarius also too, its mode is fixed. And what happens when an individual has their sun sign in a fixed mode, they tend to want to really strongly persist with things, and the ideology about really being behind something is almost becomes like immovable.
Right.
Yeah. Because
that would sum him up. Yeah.
So there's this almost immovable energy around him. He has several planets in Leo, and Leo really likes to be seen and really likes to be heard. However, he has the planet Saturn in retrograde in Leo. So Saturn's all about discipline and responsibility. And when it's in retrograde, it's all about really having to tend to all of your karmic duties. So because he feels a strong need to have to tend to his duties, he doesn't want to let things slide by. So he's needing to really tend to everything around him in a real meticulous way.
That makes sense. And I think that's what we're seeing, you know. And I really do hope that we get that nuclear power plant looked at. That is a little scary and stressful. I don't feel great about it. I really do think something is going on. And I suspect a lot of Russian soldiers are getting sick. And, you know, Putin just isn't talking about it.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. Like he knows already, but so the cards, you know, showing no surprise. Zelensky's feeling like burdened, oppressed. He has the weight of the world on his shoulders at this moment. His obstacle, the devil. Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is Putin in this case. You know, he's like on his back. He has this devil on his back that he just can't get rid of. And, you know, but like I said before too, I mean, Vlad is not going to live forever. He's not going to do this forever. This war is not going to last forever. You know, it's going to end. Things will start moving along and he will get justice. So I still have great hope for Ukraine and for Zelensky. It's turned out to be such a long, drawn out thing that just doesn't need to happen. It's just seems so senseless. The whole thing just seems so senseless.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. And it's interesting, you know, talking a little bit about Putin. So he has a really elevated Pluto in his astrological chart. There's no surprise. Pluto represents power. Pluto is the most elevated and most prominent aspect in his chart. You know, so basically, you know, Putin, he's, as we know, he's a very like one track pony, so to speak. You know, and yeah. So anything that threatens his power or diminishes it, right, is going to be kept under wraps.
Yeah, right. Which he's very good at, I think.
He's very good at, yeah.
You know, he's sort of a master at that. And I'm sure like everyone's concerned, and we just talked about this a little bit before we went on. Jill Biden just tested positive for COVID. And both of us, you know, our senses were like she was going to be okay. I can pull a few cards on it, but that's your sense too. Like, yeah, she has it, but I think she's going to be fine.
Yeah, and my sense she's going to be okay is because I know from her personality that she's not a victim, right? She's extremely conscious. She's health conscious. She does all the precautions, and she also is someone who is able to like work through things in their life. So I don't feel like she's going to stay like stuck on it too much. I feel like it's actually going to give her a little time to sort of sit back, rest, and reflect, clarify her goals, clarify opportunities, and then move along.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a good time for a reflection. You know, we was talking about that the other day on my channel, how sometimes I think we get sick almost on purpose because it forces us to go within, you know, and then sometimes we come out with like great answers and more insight and that sort of thing. So her cards are good. You know, in terms of health, the Page of Cups is definitely one of the better cards to get. So to me, this is actually one of the cards of good health. Her obstacle though is she is feeling pretty stressed out over it. She's a bit tired, she's fatigued, she has some anxiety over it, but she's sick, and I think that's normal. And you know, right now I think she's just planning. You know, to me, the Two of Wands is all about ideas and plans and thoughts and coming up with new ideas and figure out what you're going to do next. And ultimately she ends up, you know, back as like with that Queen of Wand energy where she's enthusiastic, excited, loving life. You know, and listening to her intuition, you know, so I think she's going to be vibrant and back to things before we know it.
Yeah, you know, another thing too as well is there's I just did the full moon forecast, and we're still feeling some of the energy from that. There's been a lot of squares in the sky, and there was a big grand cross, and there's been a T-squares. So the energetic astrological patterns have been really tense lately. And these square aspects, they tend to bring up a lot of like internalized fears and internalized blockages. They create energetic sharp edges. And depending upon the individual's astrological birth chart, That's representative upon how the each square is going to hit the individual, but also too because she is very much needing to be tapped into the collective. I would say
Right.
astrological forecast is very much for the collective. So she may be feeling some of the pressure from some of those squares, which create heightened pressure. And then she can't help but internalize at least a little bit of that.
Right.
Because of the position she's in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she is the first lady. She has a lot on her plate, and she interacts with a lot of people throughout the course of a day and every day. So, yeah, I'm sure she's really tuned into the collective. Speaking of the collective, you've taken a look at the new moon that's coming up, right? On the 27th. So, what should we know about that?
Okay, so the new moon is going to be August 27th. So this will be the sun and the moon are going to be at 4 degrees Virgo. So we are moving into the season of buckling down and the season of harvest. So Virgo is an earth sign as represented by the planet Mercury. So right now is, we're ending up Leo. We're ending with Leo season right now. Right now is the time to get in the rest of your camping, the time to play, the time to express yourself, the time to have fun. As soon as the sun sign goes into Virgo, we energetically buckle down. Traveling ceases to be like our number one priority.
Oh, okay.
And we get details in order. We're things like health regimens, fixing houses, fixing things, restoring things. That's very big with Virgo energy. And our need to establish some sort of work routine becomes of utmost important in that Virgo energy as well. So that being said, there are some aspects that are coming up during this new moon time. The planet Venus is still going to be in Leo. So Venus in Leo will allow us more playful time with our friends during the beginning of the Virgo season while Venus is still However, Venus is going to be opposed to planet Saturn. Saturn is all about limitations. It's the lord of karma. It's blockages. So we can be feeling delays and limitations affecting our love nature, our finances. So we just need to be careful with this aspect at the beginning of Virgo season that we don't fling ourselves too forward into specific activities, that we stay grounded, that we think more of the energy and take things step by step. The next aspect is going to be the planet Mercury, which is communications. At this new moon time, the planet Mercury is going to be in Libra. Libra is all about tactful communications. So this is a really good time. We need to remember that if we want things to go our way during this time, if we want to get things done, we need to think of the keyword harmony in a harmonious manner, as represented by Mercury in Libra. Libra is the sign that is ruled by the scales, and the scales really thrive in harmonious situations and harmonious environments, and Mercury being our communications. So it's going to be opposed Neptune in Pisces. This can bring a little bit of mental confusion, lack of boundaries. We really need to be careful at this time that if that we don't get overly obsessed with things like psychosomatic illnesses. I know sometimes nowadays people can have a little cold or a little this or a little that. We need to remind ourselves not everything's COVID. In fact, most are not COVID. Right. So Neptune can create psychosomatic disorders. It can create illusion and confusion and delusion when it's in an oppositional aspect. So we need to stay grounded and not jump to conclusions and not to become hypochondriacs. Very important to remember. So the planet, So another aspect with Mercury, it's also going to be opposed Jupiter in Aries. This is a time for big ideals and grand plans. Very optimistic, very sociable. But we can have a tendency sometimes to skip over details with this aspect or behave in ways where we take on more than we can handle. So again, again, being grounded and not taking on too much during this new moon period. The sun sign transiting through Virgo will help because Virgo being an earth sign naturally has a more practical and more down-to-earth mentality.
Mm.
And then the last aspect, again, is that Mercury, which is communications. It's going to be in a trine aspect to Pluto, which is a harmonious aspect to Pluto. So we may be feeling a stronger sense of power. And this is a very ideal time for asking for what we want from ourselves and from the universe as far as what will move us forward and what will empower us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a nice time of year. I mean, we're going into autumn, and I think that's the time of reflection, going within, nesting a bit, getting the house ready for the winter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we do. And we do travel a bit less, I think, in the fall than the rest of the year. So, and it's a good thing to be grounded no matter what, right?
Yeah. I would say that grounding is good regardless.
No matter. Yes. No matter what, it's a good thing. Anything else before I pull a few cards?
Yeah, so that's pretty much the new moon forecast. And to everyone listening now, thank you, thank you for, so much for listening. I provide astrological readings of all types. So please check out my YouTube page, Adam Stargazing Astrology. And please subscribe. And if you're interested, I have my contact information in the description box in my videos and also on my homepage on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. You have a website, right? Yeah.
I currently don't have my website completely ready and up, so I'm using my YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay. But it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. It'll be there. So I get for like this period with the new moon, we may be feeling a little conflicted at times, a little bit of internal struggle, maybe being, because you were saying something too about communicating in like a positive sort of way, tactfully.
Yes.
Because this could represent arguments and people not getting along. Our obstacle, we may be getting a bit emotional at times. We might be letting, our emotions run away from us. Like you were saying, it's a good time to get grounded, not to be a hypochondriac, not to be delusional. Try to ground yourself. Great time to gather with family and friends. It's a good time to, stay home, have some celebrations, that sort of thing. And it's also a good time to be really balanced, because 3-4 of Pentacles is a card that's really well balanced and grounded. So I think that just echoes what you were saying. So yeah, I think it'll be a nice time ahead of us as long as we stay grounded and remember what's important. And to be kind.
Yes. Yes. I mean, thankfully, these new moon aspects are, there are still some challenges as far as the oppositional aspects. So those aspects can sort of make us feel like we're being pulled in two directions. However, this last full moon, there was a grand cross, which is basically feeling like you're kind of being nailed to a cross. That is like the most challenging, most intense aspect. And with that grand cross, during this last full moon, there were also, it was all just characterized by a bunch of very intense aspects. So we're over it. We're over it.
We've had a really intense period, I think, that we're starting to come out of, thank goodness.
Yes.
I mean, it felt like July was really heavy.
Yes.
Like the energies were intense and it went right into August. And we need a reprieve. It just feels like it's too much.
Yeah.
Is that going to get lighter? Is it going to, like, astrologically, are we going to be getting a bit lighter and brighter?
Yeah. So all of those intense square aspects, some of them are still at play right now, but as we go closer to the new moon, a lot of them are lightening up. And some of those square aspects are going to, as I mentioned, are going to fade away. So some of those are going to change to the oppositional aspects, which are not as intense. Oppositional aspects, we can feel more like we're being energetically pulled in both directions. But a square aspect, it's the energy. It's really heightened and it's super intense, and it's more like crisis energy. Oppositions aren't as much crisis. It's more, they can create more like indecision.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, it has its own challenges, but it's not as intense.
Yeah, because it just feels like it was heavy. Like July just feels heavy, and I feel like I'm starting to like lighten up a little bit. So I'm thinking like, okay, and because even though like I don't always follow the astrology, I can feel it. I can still sense it. I may not always know, okay, it's because of this planet or that planet, but I can feel it, and I think like we're all feeling it. Like, okay, things are getting a little bit lighter.
Yes, they really are. Also, to Mercury, a couple weeks ago, it went into Virgo, and it's currently in Virgo now. And whenever Mercury is in a sign like Virgo, it's considered exalted. So our ability to be able to put things in logical order and rationalize what's going on, it becomes heightened and more finely tuned. And so when we are able to make order out of all the chaos and all the heavy energy that's been going on, it helps. It helps.
Right.
Like, of it, practical sense.
Right. I mean, once again, staying grounded and just being practical and down to earth, and not getting wrapped up in all that energy. You know, sometimes I think we need to take a step back and not get into some of that heavier energy that, you know, we can feel astrologically.
Yeah. Perhaps let our dream world, sort of kind of digest some of that, and just and on those days, when we're feeling really energetically intense, maybe just stay home or stay local, go to nature, sit, because that energy always passes.
Right. Before you like say or do something that you're going to regret or that'll make it worse. Yeah. I always say that when I see YouTubers who are really upset and they make a video while they're really upset.
No.
I always think, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I ever did that, because I mean, there are definitely times that I'm really like upset about something, but I always take a step back and say, you know what, I was going to make a video today, but I don't think this is the right day to do it. And I don't press record.
Right. And it's, and your emotional guidance system is, we all have a built-in emotional guidance system that's telling us, that's constantly giving us feedback. It's like whether or not we're going to listen to it or we're consciously tapped into it. It's really about being consciously tapped into that.
Yeah, Holly says it's beneficial to isolate sometimes. And you know what? Sometimes it sort of is. Like, you don't want to do it 24/7, but sometimes it's good just to, tune other people out and do your own thing. I just want to say thank you to Jeffrey and Marby. They gave us a donation. So thank you, both of you. That's very kind. I always share it with my guests, so thank you. So I thought we could take a look at Trump. Sure. He's had a heck of a week, right? Sure. I thought it was interesting that they returned his passports back to him after they took the passports, because I was thinking, oh, he's such a flight risk. So when they took the passports, he publicly complained about it, and now they've given them back. And they said, well, it's just standard procedure. We just take things, and if it's not part of the investigation, we give it back. But I was thinking, yeah, this wasn't an accident. I'm thinking it wasn't, but I mean, for now, he has his passports back, and and he's all fired up. He's giving his speeches and looking as strange as ever. But what does he have going on with him astrologically?
So Trump, so as far as Trump's natal chart, which if I do a little explanation now, it'll help everyone sort of understand his psychological blueprint. So Trump is the epitome of an identity crisis. And
just like 24/7.
Yeah, and there are some major reasons why is so Trump's 10th house in his astrological chart. So the 10th house, it rules the public image and the career and the goals and the vocation. So Trump's 10th house is in the astrological sign of Gemini. Gemini represents duality. As we remember, Trump actually used to be a hardcore Democrat.
Right. Yes.
He's a hardcore Republican. But amidst that hardcore Republican, he sort of kind of veered off into like his own rebellious category. So what I just said completely sums up his 10th house. So he has his sun sign in Gemini. the sun represents the ego structure, right?
Mhm.
So those people having a sun sign in the 10th house are characterized by a very rigid ego structure who really is all about the limelight. So what I actually see here when I study politicians is about 95% of them have their sun sign in the 10th house.
Oh, interesting. So you can see that pattern.
Yes, it's all about the public image and the public persona. So his sun sign is sitting next to his north node. The north node stands for the evolutionary direction of purpose. So automatically, you know, he's very justified in his ego and feels like he has a huge purpose. So that's also in Gemini, which is duality. And that is sitting next to the planet Uranus, which is all about instability and sudden change and rebelliousness and going against the flow and shaking things up. So he has that major conjunction between Uranus, North Node, and Gemini. So that is the conjunction of an individual who epitomizes duality. And is like an identity crisis. Yeah. So because he's a Gemini and Gemini is an air sign and it's mutable, he jumps from idea to idea. If you really noticed, he never really fully grounded in a lot of things, but he had a lot to say.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what he did was he really emphasized that North Node, which stands for his purpose, with that Uranus energy, and kind of became his own rebellious thing. And he continues to do that, and he uses his identity crisis and his rebelliousness. He uses the Republican Party as a platform for that.
But and that's all it is.
He's not really even Republican.
No, he's his own person. Like I said, he is like, not just is he the most unpatriotic president, I think he's one of the most unpatriotic people in the country. He's just out for himself. He does not care about this country. He doesn't care about the people in it.
No.
He is just looking out for his own best interests. And I think that's what we're seeing with these documents. He took the documents that were in his own best interest, I am sure. Ones that he could profit from, ones that he thought maybe would implicate him if the National Archives were to get them. It was in his own best interest, because ultimately at the end of the day, those are our documents. They belong to us. They're not his. And he's saying that we should be declassifying everything and showing people everything. And it's like, I don't think it's a good idea to show too much, because then we're also letting countries that have issues with us know what's been compromised. So I think it's better to keep some of this quiet. Can you tell like what he has coming up for him, like astrologically? Like, does he have some things that's gonna like go down with him?
Yeah. So this actually happened during the end of his presidency. Or some of these Saturn aspects came like more into his astrological chart. So Saturn represents the Lord of Karma. It's the time test. It represents it's duty and discipline and structure, and it's like the energy you put out is the energy you're going to get back. So we really saw that during the last election.
Right.
And that is really hard for Trump to handle, because part of his birth chart, he had all these amazing Jupiter aspects, and Jupiter is like the gift of God. So he was able to slide by without having a lot of these heavy Saturn aspects, which represent the karma you put out. So these Saturn aspects are now more at play.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is that energetically he's slowly getting drowned by these Saturn aspects, and you really can't stop the Lord of Karma, but they're slowly coming down upon him, and he's doing everything he can to try to hang on to something that was in the past that's never going to be again. And so he's really acting out of a strong sense of desperation, because I feel like he's energetically getting squeezed with these Saturn aspects. And his what I would consider his Jupiter aspects Jupiter represents our faith, our morals, and our beliefs.
Mm.
There's still residual energy of that, so he's able to impose his faith and his belief structures on others and have others follow that. But
Right.
it's a sinking ship, especially when Pluto moves into Aquarius in 2024. So I see,
Oh,
yeah, so I see this energy with him happening probably up until around that time. Whereas I feel like in 2024, like, I feel like it's gonna be like Trump is really gonna be like a has been.
right. Yeah, I agree too. Like everybody that's so afraid of him becoming president again, there is really no. I mean, I can pull a few cards, but I mean, there is just no way he will.
No, no. He's sort of like, I see Trump as sort of like the peanut gallery in the back. You know, I mean, he's such a narcissist.
Right?
He
Yes.
doesn't know how to not flap his lips, so he'll flap his lips at anything.
True. Lucky says he's doomed. It's like, oh, the first card I get is the Justice card.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You know, everyone that thinks like, oh, he's going to be president again. No.
No.
He's going to be the most litigated man in history.
Yes.
His obstacle will be opportunities coming his way. And I think time is going to feel like it's speeding up and he feels like he is losing control.
Yeah.
His outcome card, the card of grief, sorrow, regret. Because even though he won't have like that true heartfelt regret, he will probably regret not having the power, the money, losing his freedom, things like that. He'll have that sort of regret. So yeah, I don't see. I mean, I've done the cards on him 5 million different ways, and it's never positive going further out.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting too? So we see a time span in which Donald Trump was famous and rich, and it's been
Yeah.
what, since the 80s at least?
Yeah, since the
right?
80s. Yeah.
So it's easy, you know. So if we look at 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, you know, so
Yep.
he's been rich and famous in the limelight for such a long time.
Yes.
Right. So we would almost think like, wait a sec, like why isn't he more doomed? It's because we need to remember that things take time and that
Yeah.
it takes time for karma to come back. But we have already seen in the short amount of time since the loss of his presidency, we've already seen a lot actually in a short amount of time. And that spiral is going to continue. But because he had all those years of building himself up, it's going to take that much longer to, you know, to you know, for him to be really seeing the fruits of his actions.
Yeah, I agree. Just also too, because I think they're also trying to get all of their ducks in a row. Like every single person that is going up against him, that's going to be prosecuting him, that is prosecuting him, that's going to be, that already has it in the works. The people that we don't even know that has it in the works, that have it in the works.
Yeah.
I mean, they're crossing their T's, dotting their I's because they know how he is.
Yeah.
So they're just, which I know slows everything down, and I get it. Like everybody feels so impatient. Like yeah, it should have happened yesterday. I know, but then if something wasn't done properly, then he's going to wiggle out of it. That's what he's always done. That's how he's gotten away with so much. He looks for those little loopholes.
Yeah.
And I just feel like all these prosecutors are not letting him get to loopholes anymore. Like that period of his life's done. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, too, it really has been, and it's gonna continue for everyone to really stand firm in their own position of power and not let his manipulation and ego and power tactics undermine stuff he did, because the guy is such a manipulator, and
he is.
People are victim left and right still and terrified of Donald Trump. They give him so much power.
They really do. There's a lot of fear when it comes to him. Like even with the Republican Party, I don't believe half of the Republicans that are backing him truly even like him. I think they're just too afraid to do anything else. But it is also dooming their party. You know, I think we're going to really see it all play out with elections. And because at the end of the day, they're backing a horse that isn't going to win anything. So, I mean, it's almost like too bad for the Republicans. It's like, how could you make this huge, like being a Democrat sitting here watching it, it's like, wow, how could you make such a big mistake? You know, it just doesn't, I mean, because the writing's on the wall, but I think, and maybe this could be in some of the documents too, he has things that can blackmail people. And I think some of the people are afraid of blackmail. You know, and we already know he likes to publicly humiliate people, so that could be part of it too. Thank you for your donation, Melanie. Have you ever looked at like the Republican Party as a whole? Have you ever?
Their astrological chart. So I don't have the Republican Party's astrological chart. I would have to look for that, but I have the chart of the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what's so interesting is that, so the U.S. was founded July 4th, 1776.
Right.
The signing of the Declaration of Independence. So the sun sign then was transiting through the astrological sign of Cancer, which is very much leaning toward that patriotic attitude. And Cancer tends to be more traditionally based. Okay. And then the moon sign is in Aquarius. And Aquarius is much more universal. It's much more democratic. So what happens, that's called a sun moon inconjunct. So there's no real relation. So if we, you know, if we may, you know, the sun sign may be represented maybe like the Republicans, a little more or seemingly traditional, right? Even though this is even hard to say because they've gotten so far out of balance and Trump has done them for a new loop, right?
Right. Yes. They're not who they used to be, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're not who they more traditionally used to be. And then I would say traditionally the moon sign would be more representative of the Democratic Party, which is more universal, more ideal, more humanitarian, right? So it's almost like this inconjunct aspect where they just can't compromise because the two parties can't relate to one another.
There's a disconnect.
Yeah. The ideologies are totally disconnected. However, the planet Neptune is very exalted in the chart, so there's still this strong sense of idealism, right? But
we have that.
Yeah, but I feel though sometimes, or at least perhaps in the past, that sense of idealism sort of sugar-coated things. And that because there's so much polarity that's going on right now that sense of idealism isn't so sugar-coated anymore.
True.
There is a strong 8th house, and there's in that astrological chart, and the 8th house is represented by other people's resources. So as we saw, this. It was found, the U.S. was founded on the backs of the Native Americans, right? It pretty much was their land. So, so I feel like what we're also partially dealing with too is the remnants of that bad karma, because whenever you take over a place, there's going to be residual karma, and it was also too. This chart was founded when the planet Pluto, which represents power, was in retrograde. And whenever Pluto is in retrograde, it indicates a spilling over of power and power abuse.
And that's what we're seeing right now a lot, for sure.
Yeah, so there's that sort of strong link, and and that kind of relates sort of to the North Node that's going on right now. And the North Node is in Taurus, which is represented by the land.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's conjunct the planet Uranus, which is all about change and instability. So I'm seeing just moving on, just beyond the battle between the Democratic and the Republican. It's like humanity really is needing to try to come together on a bigger level because we have something like the environment, right? Which is really ending up like suffering.
Yeah, we have to fix the climate. I mean, I know here in New England, we're going into a drought. It's very strange. This is not something that we typically experience. We've also had days that are over 100 degrees. My air conditioner, seriously, this is how little I use my air conditioner. It lasted me 12 years, okay?
Uh-huh.
And because like houses here for the most part don't have the AC that you just turn on the switch, like that's for the whole house. I forget what it's called. See, that's how bad it is. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah. It's New England.
Right?
Yeah.
But what we're seeing like all over the country is that the land is also dry, that
Mhm.
now when it rains, it's not absorbing and we're getting floods. And
Mhm.
so everywhere it's flooding. And so, I mean, it flooded in Death Valley. Who ever thought Death Valley would have that issue? I mean, it's the hottest place on earth. It's insane.
What a
Um,
symbol, right? I mean, what a symbol.
I mean, that is just crazy. Oh, someone just gave a
Uh-huh.
donation. Thank you, Rosa. I pulled a few cards for the US and it starts off, so don't be scared. It starts off really scary. Um, yeah, like the devil. And that's the thing. And I think we feel sort of like these two people, a bit chained down to, all of this heaviness, things that we really don't feel like represent us. I think that, things that we're being forced to go through as a country. And it's going to get, I've been saying this for a long time, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Uh, I don't see the pandemic just magically disappearing. I mean, the inflation will get better. The gas prices are getting better, but it's going to take a while. I mean, I still think the housing economy is going to, end up not so great when everything's said and done.
Mhm.
But, things do start to stabilize. Things will start to become a bit more reliable and predictable. We'll have that fertile new beginning. But to me, these are this is the slowest moving card in the deck for me. So all four hooves are planted. This horse is not moving. And so
Mhm.
I feel like it's a little bit out there still. But we'll have this fertile new beginning. And I get the Empress card, the card of abundance. It's also one of my two cards for the US. So things will get better. And actually, that's funny because like two cards of fertility. So like seeds that we're planting now will come into fruition. Things will get better, but these are very slow moving cards at the same time. Because astrologically, as a country, we don't start to lighten up for a few more years, right? If I remember right.
Yeah. So it really has a lot to do with the remnants of this Pluto cycle that we're still going through. So
Okay.
Pluto has made its full rotation around the astrological chart, which takes about every 240 to 260 years. So Pluto was founded at the last degrees of the astrological sign Capricorn, which represents the existing hierarchical structures.
Okay.
And Pluto really comes to decimate those structures in order to pave way for the new. So what we're seeing here right now is we're basically in the midst of the dark night of that Plutonian energy, which is really dark. And because it's in Capricorn, it's just a lot around security, a lot around existing structures breaking down, a lot around old hierarchical structures breaking down.
Right.
So January 2024 is going to be when Pluto goes into Aquarius full swing. Pluto in Aquarius, so Aquarius is the star card. It's very humanitarian. Yeah. So starting January 2024 is really when we're going to start to see much, innovative technology, humanitarian ideals coming in at a much faster frequency.
Right. And, like I always say to my viewers, we don't always like all these things that are happening, all these challenges and the negativity, but it is paving the way for something better. We have to tear down what doesn't work. So much hasn't worked. And I think that was the whole purpose of Trump. He highlighted what didn't work in such an exaggerated way. We couldn't overlook it. We had to address it. But I think at the end of the day, it makes everything better. But like 2 more years.
Yeah. So there's going to be a sneak peek where Pluto moves forward for a very short time next year.
Oh, really?
So during that time, we could see a bunch of ideas being set up for the future, right? However, it's going to take a while for those ideas to actually move into play.
Right.
And because Pluto's the slowest moving planet in the solar system, it's
Mhm.
not everything is just going to happen overnight.
Right.
It's slowly implementing these ideas
Yes.
throughout that cycle, which lasts over 20
Right.
years. So we're going to see a slow progression. It's going to be steady and it's going to be there, but it's not going to be overnight.
Right. No, and that's kind of what the cards were saying too. Like my cards
Mhm.
were very slow moving. Like things were
Mhm.
like, and I think sometimes people feel really upset. They feel a bit discouraged, but we really are heading in the right direction. It's just we
Oh
go
yeah.
through all this garbage.
Yeah, we really are. For those of you humanitarians out there,
Mhm.
this is, just little more patience,
Right. I know all the light workers are struggling right now, and I just keep saying it's going to get better, but I think it's going
Mhm.
to get a bit worse before it gets better. And but then once
Yeah,
it does get better, it's going to be so much better because all those things that didn't work for our entire lives is going to be changed.
yeah. It's almost like these. I feel like these seeds were planted in the 80s,
Hmm.
with Reagan
Mm,
and like the trickle down effect, and
right.
they've been slowly building,
Yes.
right? And it's like, is that ideology? Is it really making anyone happy? No.
No, it didn't
And
work. It never trickled down to us, right?
yeah, and now it's like so in our faces, right? Like
Yeah.
on every level. And
Yeah.
so obviously, yeah, a fundamental change needs to happen, and it's going to be happening.
Right. And it'll be a positive thing when everything's said and done. We just have to stay really grounded and positive as we go through these next, few
Hmm.
years, especially. But I think, 2023 is almost here now. So it's not even 2 years. So it's coming. Hang in, everybody. All right. So I need to go because I have some lives of my members tonight. So I need to get ready for those. But
All right.
thank you so much, Adam, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, and remember, check out my page.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Have a great night. Thank
Bye.
you.